Well, for the first time in this year's Derby, the remaining participants were all in action on the one night. We had 8 heats and 48 became 24. And Kevin, what a night's racing. From the start to finish, it was tremendous. We saw our Antipos favourite Ballymacmat once again obliging in supreme style, but they're queuing up behind them. This is a hell of a Derby, and I tell you what, it's going to be hard to pick a winner.
Yeah, it is. Surprising enough to see his running style. He's bombing out, he's making all, but you would have expected Matt to be pulling away from the second bend. It's not really the case. I don't know whether it's the calibre of dog is just improving, but from halfway they're not being left too far behind. It just is a standard of calibre of Greyhound that we have on in this year's Derby, and really it's hard to pick one at this stage.
Well, in order to pick one, we'll have to look through the 8 heats tonight. First up, we start with, well, a dog that has been getting plenty of mention from before the Derby and into the Derby, Secreto. He had yet to win a race here at Shelbourne Park. He rectified that in fine fashion tonight. We knew he was going to get loose some night. Tonight was the night. And, well, once he entered the back straight behind Rural Hawaii, given the way Hawaii runs off the final bend, this fellow was going to be too close for comfort. And as it proved, he came through in 29.58. A fine run. I still believe there's better to come.
Yeah, well, like we said, the inconsistency of the traps was his main issue. We said the penny would drop eventually. It dropped tonight. He turned close to Rural Hawaii. We know Rural Hawaii gives it away off the bottom 2 bends. He's long odds on turning into the back straight. If he can keep starting like that from Mossy O'Connor, there's more to come from him. The times will tumble with more experience and more confidence as well, but he will need to continue to break like that, because it is a top quality entry now with just 24 left in the hat. But it was one of the heats, the best heats on paper. It turned out to be that way. All three that went through there all have big parts to play in this Derby still. Yeah,
Rural Hawaii, he is a wide seed. He's guaranteed a good draw for as long as he stays in. Obviously, we know he's in 6th in the quarterfinals, and again, if he produces the goods like he did tonight, he's not going to be far away in any night.
No, and he's got that early pace. He keeps on pinging the lids. It is a concern that he keeps on giving away so much ground. You can flip side that coin and say, well, at least he's staying clear out of trouble. He's doing his run. He'll probably need to be a little bit faster. I thought 29.60, if he continuously done that, he'd be good enough, but by the calibre dog we have here, that's not going to be good enough. You're going to need to come down to 29.40s to win this Derby, in my opinion. But who's to say he can't do that? Every competition he's been in, he's been a stalwart in every single one of them. He's ran with credit in most of them. He's won nearly all of them. And he's a dog that loves a competition, so you'd imagine he'll get stronger and stronger. And JT Jet also, I was impressed with him tonight. He'll improve again next week.
Yeah, we spoke about it last week. He probably would have been better off in trap 6. He seems to prefer the striped jacket.
Yeah.
And again, he's going to be unlucky not to get 6 if he stays in the Derby. There's still better to come from him tonight, or in the future. He didn't come on that much from last week, but who's to say the 2 quick runs back, he might have run a little bit flat tonight. Who knows? He ran well, but there could be better to come.
Yeah, exactly. I just didn't like the way he ran the first 2 bends, to be fair. Whether he's feeling something or not, I'm not saying he is, but he just didn't fly around the bends like he can, or he didn't seem to take them smoothly. Look, he's still in the hat. The big thing was to get into the quarterfinal stage, and then we thought that he'd be coming to himself even more and more. So he's at that stage now. He needs to improve. He won't win a Derby running the way he's running at the moment, but he's a young dog. He's coming forward. He's coming the right direction, and with experience and with a bit more confidence, who knows?
Unfortunately, it was such a hot heat. A couple of stalwarts went out, Vulturi went out, and we must give them a mention. It was great to see them in the Derby, but alas, their time has ended in terms
and
of
also
the Derby.
Ballyhooly Henry, he ran a massive race in defeat tonight. I was cheering on Jet for obvious reasons, but in fairness, if you were to pick out an unlucky loser tonight, I think Ballyhooly Henry definitely has to win some in that category.
We move on. Heat 2, and this went to Save the Dawn. He's a bit of a Marmite Greyhound. I know bookmakers down the ring there, they don't know when to take him on and when not to take him on. Tonight was one of those nights you shouldn't have taken him on. He was at his very best tonight. He didn't step right from traps as markedly as he did last week. And once he hit the front, that was it. He stretched this field and he turned into a procession. Granted, he was helped by traffic problems for his main rivals in behind, but at that stage the race was over. He was never going to be beaten. He did 29.57, a hell of a run, and he announced his arrival in this year's Derby.
Exactly, and he let me down last week. I was keen on him last week. I thought he'd win last week. Just didn't go according to plan, but a much faster start tonight. That's exactly what the dog is all about. We know how good he is and what he's capable of doing, and finally the penny seems to have dropped with him. He's been changed this season. It worked a treat tonight. He can definitely run from the rails. Yeah, like you said, a lot of the traffic problems in behind. Fair Taxes took a bad bump at the first bend, and Paradise Maverick, one of the most eye-catching qualifiers in defeat tonight, ran a huge race for Pat Buckley. He really is one of the most consistent greyhounds in the country at the moment. Every stake he runs, and he's always in the shake-up, and he really had to knuckle down tonight. But don't take anything away from Save the Dawn. He needs to keep up that starting. He can't afford to miss the kick like he did last week again. But if he can continue to start, he's the big say.
A son of Druby Scolari, of course, was also trained by Fraser Blackett. Who knows, it could be, if Fraser's going to break his Derby duck, maybe it's a son of one of his own dogs that's going to do it. Just mentioning there again, Fair Taxes did run a hell of a race after taking a hefty wallop in the first corner and also took a bump off the last bend. A couple of months ago, he may well have just faltered and given away too easily. Tonight, he dug deep, ran well. We know how good he is on his night, and as you say, Paradise Maverick, a real eye-catcher in defeat. But yeah, those three going through, they were probably the right three to go through in the heat, given the way the race was run.
Oh yeah, exactly. But Fair Taxes, like you said, took a bad bump. But at this stage, you don't get any prize winning check for winning the heats. You just need to qualify. And as you said, Maverick and Fair Taxes are in the heat for next night. Absolutely.
Heat 3, we saw one of the most popular greyhounds in training go out here, Ballydoyle Honey. Just things didn't go right happened all a bit too quick for around the opening two bends. But we had Tire Tommy. This fellow is really finding form now. 29.79. There's no question he can go faster, but it was a pretty flawless display. Hit the front early, and well, once doing so, he was never going to be beaten. In essence, like Sedarian Vega turned second, he was never going to pick him up. Offshore Bound again, finishing hard to get second, but it was all about Tire Tommy in the end.
Yeah, and clearly the kennel's coming into form. We saw it here on Thursday night with Tyre Van Gaal, 29-10, a new track record. Fierce and lucky to go out at the competition, Van Gaal in the first round, but Tyre Tommy back to what he can do. He's missed the break so far in the Derby. He pinged out tonight and it was game over after 5 yards from me. I just couldn't see anything coming next or near him when he breaks like that. Siderian Vega, I've knocked the dog saying that if he gets drawn out far, if he doesn't lead, he'll go out. And in fairness to him, he knuckled down the back tonight. He was behind. And for me, after the second bend, I couldn't see how he could qualify, because I've said it on this programme that as soon as he's behind, I think he'll go out. But in fairness to the dog, he really stuck to his guns. Offshore Bound, well, we know how good he is. He's still there again, and he's going to be a hard dog to knock out of the competition from halfway. If there's a faster dog in the competition, I've yet to see him. He'll pick up anything that's ahead. But Tyre Tommy back to his best in a big way.
They come back to the Offshore Bound. I know one or two punters are on big prices each way. He's going to be very hard to keep out of the final.
Well, that was my comment straight after the race. He'll be in the final. Everything going according to plan and running the way he ran tonight. I definitely would like to be on him to get to the final. I think he's a big player. Absolutely.
We move on to Heat 4. We've already mentioned him. Ballymac he is an anti-post favourite, and a deserving anti-post favourite. I have a theory. People say he's not stretching away from dogs, whatnot. I think Liam Dowling has looked at his draws every night and gone, we can just let this dog tip through to us. I think he's only half cooked, and I could be wrong. But he does 29.44 tonight. It looked effortless. It looked absolutely effortless. It's not still the performance he produced in the 600 final. If he produces that sort of run with those sort of starts, he's going to do something similar to Tyre Van Gaal. This is a hell of a fast dog and deserving favourite. And he got trap one again the next night.
Yeah, well, I think Liam Dowling will be sending up a little card to Frank Kieran that keeps on doing the draw. But no, I wasn't trying to knock him. I think the calibre of dog in this is improving. I do really think that. Look, how can you knock him? He's bombing out, he's making all, he's in the fastest runs every night. You can't knock him. He's the one to beat. We put a tag on him here after the first round and said that. He has now got the tag that everyone's got to aim at, and he's bucking the trend. He's not showing any flaws. If he keeps starting the way he's starting, he'll win the Derby. Considering if Frank keeps on giving him trap one, he will anyway. But definitely he's the one they all have to beat. But from a layer's point of view, we need to look for reasons, and my one reason is that from halfway I'd be expecting on his 600 yard farm I was expecting him to just pull clear, but they are keeping into him, so there is a little bit of optimism there.
Yeah, I've no doubt there's better to come from him. Although, who's to say if he gets through the next night, he might get trap 5 in the semi-finals in Derby, and all of a sudden it's game on, you know what I mean? Behind him, Highview Apollo, he was well drawn in trap 2. He tracked the favourite round in second, ran a hell of a race. He has 29-40 odd in his card here at Shell Park, so we knew he could run. He's tiptoeing through this Derby, he's running well, and out in 5, Farlow Rumble, he hasn't been lucky with draw. He still hasn't done the sort of run we're expecting from him. Who's to say he might still do it?
Yeah, exactly. Similar enough to JT Jet for me, Farlow Rumble. He's yet to set the world alight, but we know the potential that he has, and if he produces it. I liked Farlow Rumble, to be fair to me. I think he completely missed the kick. He didn't really get much luck on running early on, and he checked at the third bend as well when he was making up a bit of ground there. That cost him a length or two. And Highview Apollo, well, we touched on him a couple of times here. What a great servant he's been for Jerry Merriman, and a plumbed run around the first two bends set it up for Highview Apollo. He just got a lovely run in behind Matt and just slipped into a slipstream and stayed going down the back. But Ballymac Matt, what more can we say about him? He continuously does the fastest runs in the night. He keeps on pinging out, and if he continues that way, I think Liam Dowling might be on the winner's podium come the final night.
Yeah, 3 nights into the Derby, 29.43, 29.48, 29.44, all from the front. There's nothing wrong with the form anyway. Moving on, Heat 5, and here Gaytime Hawk. Well, he returned to form last week after a couple of months disappointing, but tonight again he was mightily impressive as he picked up Farlow Blitz, and in the end Cable Bay came through for second. 3 eye-catching runs here. I thought Farlow Blitz ran a hell of a race in front from a tricky draw, didn't get one of his flying starts, got to the front, and he's only picked up the last few yards. If you were on a Manty post, you're not too disheartened by this run, but Gaytime Hawk was the one that came through the win, and in fairness, he's running into form here, and who's to say he can't go another round or two?
Yeah, well, we questioned him after the first round. He was quite disappointing in the first round, bounced back to form last week, but tonight was a much better performance. He was in against a better calibre of Greyhound tonight, and he showed that he is up to that level that we all know about, that we saw a question him after round 1. Farlow Blitz, like you said, I didn't fancy him tonight with a draw. I would have taken him on. But he surprised me. He did stay on a bit better now. He was only picked up in the dying strides. I'd have from trap 6 he would have really struggled. He didn't ping the lids again, like you said, but he still has that early pace just to clear. Amazing Dude is now gone. Lemon Miley is probably the closest early pace runner to him, but even at that, if Blitzka takes one of it, he's the one that's capable of doing less than 3:35 sectionals. If he does that, one of them, he'll be 5-6 clear going down the back. Wouldn't bother me the fact he was beaten tonight if I'm on him at long odds. I think he's a big player, but the eye catcher for me is without question Cable Bay.
Yeah.
Now I know I probably beat him to the first bend myself, but that dog is just staying on unbelievably well against good dogs. Last week was the same thing. To pick up Tyre Tommy, we saw what Tyre Tommy did tonight, pinging out. Just to be running in that way, Cable Bay for me is a real eye catcher. And after that race, I turned to the lads and said, he's one I'd like to be on the right side of going forward. I think he's coming into form at just the right time. Yeah,
there's a feeling in the kennel, of course, that he wants to be in that far. I'm not so sure. He is stepping a bit right from traps in the early stages, and his best starts have probably been out from 4 and 5. He has some gears from that second bend, though, doesn't he? As you say, it was eye-catching tonight to come from as far back as he did, and he's only, he's not beaten far by Gaytime Hawk, who himself is a very strong running dog. Like, he really made up the ground from halfway. Yeah, well, Gaytime Hawk, when he turns to second bend, you'd be expecting him to pick up what's in front of him. He's not renowned for that, so no, Cable Bay for me, real eye-catcher. I think he's drawn trap 1 in the quarterfinals. So if your theory is right, that's not the right place for him. We'll see. Who knows, there might be trouble on his outside. Heat 6, and here is, well, he's a bit of a punter's favourite here at Shelton Park. He went 0 from 7, and he's now 6 from 6 from his last 6. There's nothing wrong with the way he's running, and this fellow absolutely pinged the lids tonight. It's not what he's noted for. He's noted for showing great early pace and getting there on the corner, but tonight it was over from an inch in. He flew out of traps, was never touched. 29.50. He's a dog that's going the right way, and I like the way he's going. Yeah, I think it was the first round we touched on him and just said a bit more confidence for the Greyhound, and that he was after having such a bad streak. Then he had so many wins on his card, and we were just saying, with more confidence, Greyhounds tend to improve, and he is just the prime example of that. He literally is on cloud 9 at the moment. The dog is, he thinks he's on top of the world. Everyone will talk about Ballymacmac being unbeaten in the Derby so far. He's the only other one that's unbeaten in the Derby so far, and the way he's going at the moment, you'd be foolish to say he can't continue it. Ivy Hill Bart bombed out, stayed second, always ran second. Another one of those in these derbies, if you're a wide seat, you get in the right trap, bit of trouble on the inside, who knows, he can't progress a bit further. And Jojo Fantasy, still a maiden. He's only had his 5th race tonight. He's running really well for Connections. Yeah, absolutely. Yet to win a race, as you say. Yeah. I was going to steal your line. You used your line earlier on. Go on, tell me. I gave you the line earlier on that you used when you were making the draw. Who knows, Jojo Fantasy could be the first Greyhound ever to go to the Derby final and win his first ever race in the final. So that would be a way to lose your maiden tag in style. I'll take your word for it. Jojo Fantasy, again, he's going to be a big price the next night, but he just keeps sneaking through. Every week we keep saying to him, fair play. Another one for Graham Holland. His kennel is flying. Yeah, exactly. And I think he got 5 through. Might be wrong. I think it's 4 or 5 through. But even that at the quarterfinals of Derby, that is a real achievement. And not taken away from Peregrine Falcon, he's the one we need to take out of this heat. The dog is improving every week, and I think a couple of shooties got involved at 40-1 and the build up to tonight. That's looking pretty nice now. Yeah, it's a tasty little price, all right. Moving on, Heat 7, and here the aforementioned Lemon Miley. He's a dog that we know what he does. He goes hard to the corner, he moves well down the back, and he stays on. He's not doing massive times, but you know he's going to run his race every night, and if anything falters, he'll be there to pick up the pieces. Now, as it is, he's going to struggle from here on in, but who's to say? Murton Lahey's dogs have been flying all year, and well, it's probably the dog he wasn't expected to go furthest for him in the Derby, but he's still there. Yeah, exactly. If you'd asked Murty before the start, I wouldn't have said Miley would have been top.
with the likes of Ballybock Mondo, the Project Stakes winner, Ballybock Mike, and Material Man, all as part of his team. But Lemon Miley, he's really come back to life. The thing that's surprising me about Lemon Miley is how well he's actually staying on. I've known him as a sprinter. I would have said 5-5 was his limit. I would have said he would have died a death in the last 25 yards, but he's not. He's sticking there. He's brave, and I think that's a big play for him. Shut the Back Door, I thought ran really well in this race. Just changed sides going down the back straight. That might have cost him the race. Was a little bit undecisive. Lemon Miley sort of took his ground. Had to switch inside. I think that might just halted his progress a little bit. And Blue Cafu, we saw good money for Blue Cafu. He's still there. He's really running in good form without winning. He's yet to win a heat, but you wouldn't have said he's running like a dog like that. Took a bit of a bump off the second bend, and for me that cost him his chances. But 3 nice types there. They'll all need to improve to win the Derby though.
Yeah, speaking of Blue Cafu, look, we've seen this dog flying up in the past. He's not quite getting the start that we've known from him. I have no doubt there's a big run in him, but it could cost me money waiting for it to happen, I'm afraid.
Yeah, well, like you said, he needs to start starting well, because there's going to be no room for errors now. It's all well and good missing the break in the early rounds. You can get through, sneak through, but you won't do that next week.
Certainly, the biggest springer of the Derby is Samaya. We knew she was a very fast bitch, but as on the night where Ballydoyle Honey went out, you know, the proclaimed fastest bitch in the land, her little sister is starting to look like a serious Derby challenger. We sort of didn't know what way to price her up after last week. She wins at 33-1 and 29.51. You know, she's still 5 or 6 to 1 in the race after doing that tonight. You know, and all of a sudden, going to the first corner, she's 5's on. You know, she's certainly gone around the first bend, and she wins in 29.46. How do you price her long odds? Is she going to keep going and getting better, or is she going to trip up? We don't know, but I'll tell you what, I wouldn't like to be taking her on at a big price.
No, and in fairness to Robert Gleeson, the trainer, I went to school with Robert, I was asking about her, and he said it to me after last week that was no fluke. And he said in every trial he's ever given her, she's been excellent. Her car didn't suggest it. He said just things didn't go her way. He thought the world of her coming into the Derby. And Robert's a shrewd trainer. He didn't enter her in the Derby for numbers or just to have a runner in the Derby. They own her themselves. They give her a chance, and she's proven them right. If she starts the way she's starting, going on Robert's word, she's a real nice lady. And she's gone further than her little sister. Not many would have thought that coming into the competition, but I think she'd give her a run for her money even going forward. I don't think this is a fluke by any means. I think this bitch has got a huge future ahead of her. The rest of them, Priceless Lassie ran well again to stay on. Like we've touched on, she'll place more than she'll win because she sets off so far behind. But like the likes of Offshore Bound, you don't want to be drawn in against her because she can pip you to third. She's capable of that.
Well, if she's ahead of you at the second bend,
yeah,
you're not picking her up, basically.
Yeah, no way. I don't know any Greyhound alive that could pick her up at the moment. But she just gives away so much ground on the run to the corner. That's her issue. Dolcino Flyer, he's a dog that sort of surprised me. I didn't think he'd qualify tonight. Saying that, I didn't think he'd qualify last week.
Yeah.
And he keeps on putting the runs together. I don't think he's good enough to win a Derby. But he's one of those that it's given the connections a real good run for the money. And chances are he's going to be a big price next week. And we could be talking about in the semi-finals of a Derby then.
Yeah, the key for him was that Ballybock Mike was headed early enough. And once he's headed, he was going to falter. And that allowed Dolcino to tiptoe into third. And again, you know, he's still there. But as you say, he's going to be a big price the next night. And indeed to win the Derby. But it's all about Samaya, really, isn't it? She's some fast lady.
Oh, she is, and just if Robert's watching, don't forget me for a pup. I booked one last week.
Robert, if you're watching, I'll take one too. Well, that's the third round of the Derby. We're looking ahead to the final 24 Greyhounds, 4 quarterfinals. We'll briefly touch on them, Kevin. A very interesting draw. We'll go through them very quickly. The first heat, you know, Farlow Blitz after getting trap 1. He was in 6th tonight, got trap 1 for his efforts. He's going to take some stopping. Rural Hawaii will be his nearest challenger in the early stages, it seems, but Samaya is also on the scene. It's a hell of a heat, but Farlow Blitz will most likely be favoured as a likely leader. He will be favoured. Well, he will be if I'm pricing it anyway. But I think I was impressed with enough of him tonight. Shut the Back Door in 2. We know he's got the early pace, not really blistering to the bend in this competition yet so far. Samaya, I think, being on the outside of Blue Cafu, she'll need a similar start, and she won't want Blue Cafu to make one of those ping starts. Rural Hawaii will stay clear out of trouble. I just think Farlow Blitz and Rural Hawaii will turn into the back together, and I hope Samaya can come through as well. But for me, I think it's all one-way traffic. I think punters will be lumping on Blitz to win from red. In one word, will Ballymacmat win the second heat from trap 1? Yes. Okay. Save the Dawn, probably the biggest danger from trap 5. Not necessarily badly drawn in 5, despite the fact he's an inside seed now. He was a middle to wide seed, of course. Yeah, and my father's Priceless Lassie, she drew trap 4, and if he said there was going to be an inside runner outside,
you'd be a bit worried, but Save the Dawn in 5, not going to hinder you at all. He's going to go up straight as a die. I think she's a chance of qualifying too.
Heat 3. Wow, claims could be made for every single one of them. 6 greyhounds with very similar ability. Every single one of them capable of doing a 29.50 or 29.60 on the night, and it could all come down to the first 5 yards.
Yeah, I haven't really looked in depth in it, but for me, it could be similar to Heat 1. I think Tiger Tommy is ideally drawn, offshore bound, not a good starter in 2. Farther Rumble's not pinging the lids either. Fair Taxes in 4. Maverick out in 6 is probably going to come in a bit on Gate Time Hawk, as is Gate Time Hawk going to make his way in. I think it's all set up for Tiger Tommy on the inside, and it'd be great to say PJ Fatty with a runner, a live chance in the semi-finals too.
Yeah, very much so, very much so. And then on to the final heat. Well, you know, another very interesting contest. Claims could be made for a number of the runners here. Siderian Vega, certainly the worst drawn dog out in 5. He's going to look for a rails pitch. JT Jet, he got the stripes. That could be all important. Cable Bay is in 1. We're going to see what he does in the early stages. But again, Secreto, Peregrine Falcon, Lemon Miley. You know, it's a race where anything could really happen. Yeah,
the early stages is probably going to decide this race, because you'd imagine Siderian Vega, we say he's too wide in 3. He's drawn trap 5. Miley will bore in as well. Miley's got good early pace as well. Peregrine Falcon could be in for a rude awakening when he comes out of the boxes. Connections, I would be worried if I had him. I think Cable Bay again, ideally drawing trap 1. If the runners can't get across, he'd be one that I'd like to stay the right side of. I think trap 1 runners could land all 4 heats.
I think he's trying to deflect attention away from JT Jet in trap 6, who is absolutely perfectly drawn. Anyway, we're going to see next week what happens in those 4 quarterfinals. Join us at Shelburne Park for the quarterfinals of the BoyleSports Derby for 2015. It's one hell of a competition.